edge, edge bead. Hopefully I'm going to get this in frame. I hope. Let's see. I got no way to really. Okay. Okay. Edge bead. Has been described by other folks. All I'm doing is picking up a dot of solder and putting it on the edge first. It's really almost impossible to hold this in a stand and run a bead by melting the solder onto your tip and having it flow down onto the edge without overloading the edge you're trying to get a bead on. I know people go, well, I did that and it ran off. Well, if you doing this, you're putting too much solder on, it's going to drip off. That's a sign that you're putting on too much solder. You notice I'm also working away from, instead of feeding it in here where this stuff is hot and can burn me, I'm working away from my hand. And so basically, see, I almost had a drip there because I almost got too much on. There's some on there already. But I have to do this all the way around, and gotta hope I got this in frame. Maybe, maybe not. Well, see, a drip, got too much on. It's called gravity. We live in a gravity environment. Gravity can be your friend, but it can also be your enemy. So, turn this around so I can get the other side. Now didn't put any flux on here. Just want the solder to stick. Okay, so make sure I got this spotted. I've already done spots on one of these. Okay, if you're doing stuff like this, you really want to do a couple at a time so that you can put one down so the solder can cool off so you can pick it up again. Alright, we're going to flux. You don't have to have a lot in there. You don't have to soak it or dip it into a pool of flux. But we're just doing it so it helps it flow. So, the next step is to connect the dots. See, and when you're doing on a curved edge like this, you got to let it cool in between connections. If you move too fast, it's going to run off. Okay? You can see that? I hope. See? Same thing with indentations. Okay? And again, you'll have to keep going around until eventually, I've got too much on there, so I've got to take a little off. But eventually, you work your way around so you get a nice, smooth looking bead. And that's what the 24 gauge copper wire helps do. Has a nice foundation. So I can get a decent bead on stuff. Okay. And don't necessarily start on one end and work all the way around. You got your beads on there. Your droplets. Drip a little bit at a time. And of course, once you've connected the dots a couple times with your iron, the active ingredient in the flux that makes it work as the flux burns off. If you get a spike, then yeah, you have to add a little more flux to it. Not quite perfect, right? So you keep working around. Okay? And it's okay to use the edge of your iron. This is just a chisel tip, so you actually have 4 edges or 4 faces. You've got the big fat, and then you've got the edge. And it's okay to use your edge, because basically when you're doing a bead like this, you're basically just using the tip of your chisel tip. You're not touching it with the whole face. And you keep your iron down, pointed down, so your solder flows onto the work instead of backwards onto the tip. Okay. Let that cool. Work back to it if I need to. Okay. It can get too hot. Okay, I'm working around. Okay. Hopefully you see that. Doesn't feel too bad. Almost feels smooth. Don't want to necessarily have a corner there. Got a little spot. Okay. Working my way around. And you got to hold it for a second or two until the solder, what we call, freezes. That's where it solidifies. It's still hot. Lord knows it's still hot. And it can burn you if you touch it. But basically, that's how I get a bead on these things. Whether it's this shape or something else. Not too bad. You know. And I tell people also, don't trust your eyes. Let it cool off and give it a quick feel. And of course there's still areas that I'll have to touch up where it connects, but that's okay. Got a big honk right there. Okay. You kind of see that? Keep working around the edge, because you're not going to get it perfect the very first time. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But this is what I wind up having to do. And you know, there's some of you out there that probably go, well, why don't you just use U-cane? Well, okay. I use U-cane on circles, on stuff like this. No, I don't. But again, you wind up having to come up with what's easier for you. This is just what I do. This is just an example of how to put an edge bead on something. And hopefully you will have gleaned an idea you can use. So that's kind of how we do that. Thank you. God bless. Have a nice evening.